Welcome to SVG TV's news for Friday, February 3rd, 2023. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. The government today announced the implementation of a salary increases for all public sector workers and a lower income tax. A news release from the Agency for Public Information said Cabinet on Wednesday, January 18th, approved increases for salaries for all category of public sector workers, including daily paid and minor salary workers. Public sector workers will receive an increase of 2.5% from January 1st, 2023 to 31st of December 2023. 2% from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024, and 2.5% from January 2025. In his budget address on January 9, 2023, Minister of Finance Camila Gonsalves indicated that the salary increases would cost the government an extra $26 million over the course of 3 years. The minister added that the salary increase represents a 5.7% growth in budget 2023 for wages and salaries, and it is an extraordinary increase in light of the global challenges and fragility of the country's ongoing economic recovery. As the final activities under the Taiwanese-funded Women's Empowerment Project SVG wind down, some 31 female entrepreneurs today received grants to enhance their businesses. The grants, totaling 243,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars, were handed over at a ceremony held at Kingstown Baptist Church today. The grant recipients were part of the third and final cohort of Women Empowerment Project SVG, which was executed by the Taiwanese Technical Mission through the Center for Enterprise Development, Inc. CED. Speaking at the award ceremony today, project coordinator Keisha Phillips reminded the recipients that the grants are to be used to better operate their businesses and that they should use the funds wisely.
The grants that you are going to receive today are not grants for a vacation, right? They're not grants to flam. These grants are to be invested to improve your business operations. And we will, at some point in the future, be following up with you to see how the grants were invested, what stage your businesses are at, because we need to see the impact of initiatives of this nature. We want to see not just your business continue operating, but we want to see growth, as in expansion, creating employment for others, because we're talking wealth generation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is what it is about. That $1 that you spend, it is going around the country in so many different parts. Whether it is buying supplies from a farmer, whether it is employing someone part-time, however it is spent, it goes around to build the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So while this program would have benefited you socially, economically, we're aiming for the overall objective.
Giving an overview of the project, Phillips noted that Vincentians, especially females, have benefited significantly from over 5 million Eastern Caribbean dollars.
But it has activities through the Ministry of Education, because the Women's Empowerment Project has a cooperation with the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines through the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Finance, of which CED is a department. So for this project, over 5 million EC dollars was invested in executing this project here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The project is also executed in other Caribbean islands and some parts of Latin America. So women in business have truly been benefiting. You being our last batch of this aspect of the program, we do hope that in spite of challenges, the sacrifice of time, especially at nights to get your trainings done, the sacrifices to facilitate counselors to work along with you over a 6-week period has been something beneficial. We are hoping that when you leave here today, it is not just with a check in your hand, but the information, the training, the knowledge that was imparted over the last few months would be used to better operate your businesses. If we do not see improvement in your businesses, then all of these monies that Taiwan has invested in you and those who came before you would have been a waste of time. So please, do your best.
Taiwan's ambassador to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, His Excellency Peter Shiley Lan, congratulated all 31 recipients.
Congratulate all the recipients today. You, through the hard works, all the trainings, all the consultations, you're finally here receiving the grant. So I think you should give yourself and all other teams a big round of applause. I want to echo what Keisha just said. I want to remind everybody, this program is all about empowerment. This is not just some grant awarding ceremony that everybody take your money back and you did not apply later on from what you learned, from what you went through from this program. Because in Taiwan, we certainly know the importance of having such kind of programs.
Ambassador Lan said that Taiwan understands the challenges business owners face in the country, hence the reason for implementing programs such as the Women Empowerment Project, which has benefited hundreds of Vincentian female entrepreneurs.
Business owners, they go out, they explore every possibilities, they risk themselves. I'm working for the government. I'm not supposed to say this, but I know how risky it is to start your own business. That's why in Taiwan, we understand that immediately after COVID, after the volcanic eruption, I know how difficult it is for business owners like you, what kind of challenges you're facing. That's why we wanted to start a program like this. This is Women's Empowerment Program, but also experience sharing, because in Taiwan we have so many small business owners like yourself, and they are also going through a very difficult time.
The Women Empowerment Project is part of an initiative entitled Assisting the Economic Empowerment of Women in Latin America and the Caribbean in the post-pandemic of COVID-19. The objective is to boost the country's economy following the impact of the pandemic and maintain social stability by strengthening women's economic empowerment through employment and entrepreneurship. The third cohort of the Women Empowerment Project ran from August to September of last year. The final activity for this project will be the business plan competition, which will see 10 finalists pitching to a panel of judges on Friday, 17th of February. 3 of the finalists will win $26,000 each. In other news, the Youth and Adult Training for Employment YATE program has a new home in the heart of capital Kingston. The office opposite the ministerial building housing the Kingston Post Office offers many personal skills development services through the $10 million program. During the official commissioning ceremony, Director of the National Qualifications Department, Endel Johnson, said programs such as YATE and SKY are providing new non-traditional learning opportunities to Vincentians, and the organization is making every effort to facilitate these programs. The YATE program, which is a component of the Human Development Services Delivery (HDSD) project, funded by the World Bank, has provided training to over 1,000 participants across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The program places particular emphasis on providing specially tailored opportunities to vulnerable groups within society, such as persons with disabilities and young mothers. Representative of the World Bank and senior economist in his remarks said that the YATE program depends on people with motivation and further thanked the participants, instructors, and coordinators for their input and contributions in making the program a success. A new YATE office is currently open for official business Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Consultant contracted by the World Bank to lead the process to update St. Vincent and the Grenadines' comprehensive disaster management policy, Jeremy Collymore, is of the view that there cannot be effective recovery if the organizations leading the recovery are not fully prepared. Collymore, who is an international disaster risk management and resilience advisor, was addressing stakeholders at a consultation this week at the NIS conference room to facilitate their input for disaster management policy.
So really what we are arguing or proposing, public sector resilience, organization resilience, ought to be a foundation for national resilient planning. And so the only person is not Nemo alone must have a plan. If housing is impacted, how are you going to get back in business to serve those who are dislocated? How will the people in inland revenue be collecting money as soon as possible? So this idea of the Caribbean resilient state, there's the Prime Minister and other people in the CARICOM are promoting, must be platformed on a resilient public service to start with. And if we accept that, then I think we are on the way to building a resilient state and improving CDM.
Collymore also noted that the issue of coordination and stakeholders' understanding of the disaster management policy is key for safer and resilient communities and sustainable development.
You understand? So we have a big gap of creating the awareness of this thing that is so central and integral to the things that you do. Of course, in all the things that we do, there are some things that are very important. Diversity and respect for individual differences. And sometimes we think of individual differences in different ways, the sex and those traditional things. But the professions, there is a tendency to dismiss some professions or professionals as low in the space, like the disaster management people in the office. I feel so sorry for them. Yeah, oh them. Yeah, but this whole question of individual differences and institutional differences, the question of leadership, motivation, all these are public. These are human resource development issues, and a lot of them. Huh? But this has implications. So we cannot talk about changing this thing, disaster risk management, without looking at the human resource development space in which it's taking place. So we are talking integration and comprehensiveness in a wide way. But operationally, we have to cut out the space for the NEMO and leading the CDM with the understanding that your roles as stakeholders is very crucial.
Collymore said the blueprint of the disaster management policy also requires strong governance and accountability for development planning and decision making.
And we have 5 outcomes: robust and effective governance, culture of safety is built, and the risk knowledge base for evidence-based decision making is accessible. Very important. Sectors lead and integrate CDM into programming, operational readiness for all hazards, and capacity built for recovery.
The SVG Comprehensive Disaster Management Policy was developed in 2014 and is now up for review. After just 1 week of this country's ascension to the pro tempore presidency 2023 to 2024 of the Community of Latin America and Caribbean States CELAC, a ministerial briefing was held at the Foreign Affairs Conference Room on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023, to present a work plan and organizational structure for the way forward. A news release from the Agency for Public Information said in its remarks at the briefing with permanent secretaries and other heads of departments, Prime Minister Dr. Alf Gonsalves emphasized that CELAC adds value to all member states and every country must feed into the process framed by the 15 specific declarations of Buenos Aires. The Prime Minister said CELAC is an umbrella organization of an intergovernmental kind that addresses a range of functional cooperation, including economic and political matters. National Coordinator for the Presidential Secretariat of CELAC in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, His Excellency Dr. Douglas Slater, in delivering his remarks, called for a collaborative approach between member states of the Caribbean Community CARICOM and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States OECS subgrouping. Deputy Coordinator of the Presidential Secretariat of CELAC, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Andreas Wickham, said the vast resources across CELAC member states, such as oil, natural gas, precious metals, and minerals, strengthen the overall position of CELAC. Meanwhile, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Keisal Peters described the advancement of this country to CELAC's presidency as outstanding. Minister Peters listed food security, terrorism, gender equality, climate change, arms trafficking, and the preservation of indigenous languages among areas of concern for CELAC member countries. Meanwhile, Minister Peters said a special declaration to put an end to the blockade on Cuba is already in motion, with Prime Minister Gonsalves, along with other leaders of CARICOM, campaigning this cause. The Georgetown Medical and Diagnostic Center today received a number of medical supplies from former resident Neil Cork, who now resides in the United States. Tyrone Burke delivered the supplies to the medical complex, along with the book bags to a number of students of primary and secondary schools in the area on behalf of Mr. Cork, his family, and friends.
Neil and his family were residents of Georgetown. They're originally from Georgetown. But Neil had migrated from this country when he was about 8 years old or 9. And he has lived in the United States since then. He's not a wealthy man. He worked in the correctional facility in America. So you know he's not a wealthy man. But I think he believed in this passage from the Bible, which says, the Lord prefer or he bless a giver than a receiver. And he has been given to us supplies for the medical center about 9 years now, I think. We started at the Georgetown Hospital first, and then we moved to the Modern Medical Center. We are all involved in this thing of collecting and distributing. And I want to assure you that from time to time, we will get more gifts from the Cox family in New York. Incidentally, I am also a Cork. I'm the first cousin of Neil. All right, so I want to thank you all for coming. And on behalf of Neil, we want to present these things to the hospital and the schools, and we are quite sure that they were going to be very much beneficial to all the receivers.
Area Representative Prime Minister Dr. Alf Gonsalves, who attended the handing over ceremony, thanked the Cork family for the donation.
Yeah, in fact, on the 22nd of January, it will be 29 years since I'm the parliamentary representative of North Central Windward. And it really pleases me when I see Vincentians overseas from the area. Some areas they have a lot of good organizations. This one with Neil has a very good connection with Tyrone, with the Cork family. In South Rivers, you have SOPO. In Park Hill, they have other links in Byra, Connery, and it's the diaspora in our communities, generally in the country, but certainly in North Central, they have been contributing, and we really appreciate.
The Prime Minister also used the opportunity to highlight the healthcare services being provided in the area, which he said is over $100 million worth of investments.
I want to say more widely that we have tremendous facilities here, medical facilities. We have the modern medical complex here. We have the Georgetown Smart Hospital, which has been refurbished, rehabilitated. We have the Smart Clinic, which you see. We're just waiting on a few finishing touches internally to open that facility, things relating to the cupboards, countertops, and the like. There is no rural area anywhere in the Caribbean that you have 3 facilities of this kind. And of course, modern medical has a sophisticated range of diagnostic facilities, and they're expanding. As you go out there and you'll see that the platform for the MRI machine, and they is being put together. You see the adjoining room for it. You see the module itself, the machine. There have been some supply chain issues. It's delayed, but it's coming. We have some new timelines. Hopefully everything would be here and installed by the middle of the year. We're hoping it would have been in the first quarter. But we have no control over some of these things. But I want to say this to the public servants who are responsible, and the state agencies which are responsible for maintenance of these facilities, that they ensure on an ongoing basis that these facilities are maintained.
A number of journalists and media house representatives here are calling for a meeting with Commissioner of Police Colin John to address what they say are escalating threats against them as they report on matters at the Serious Offences Court and the Kingston Magistrate Court. In a letter addressed to the Commissioner, the media house representatives said this has been an ongoing situation about which they have complained repeatedly over the years to police officers assigned to the court. The journalist said the letter, which was delivered to the Commissioner on Thursday, relates specifically to an incident outside the Serious Offences Court last Wednesday, January 25, 2023, in which Kamarli Durant of the Searchlight newspaper, Kenton Chance of Eyewitness News, and Hayden Huggins, who freelances for the Vincentian newspaper, were in the courtyard waiting to photograph Jeremy Andrews, who was remanded to prison pending sentencing after pleading guilty to firearm and ammunition charges. It was reported that when the police officers exited the building with Andrews in their custody and the journalists began to attempt to photograph him, many of the people in the courtyard who were apparently friends of Andrews accosted the journalists, shouted insults at them, and attempted to prevent them from photographing the prisoner. It was also noted that on Friday, January 27, 2023, a Searchlight reporter, accompanied by his editor, Claire Keyser, filed a report at the Criminal Investigations Department in Kingstown after Bally Alexander, who was jailed for firearm and ammunition offenses, had threatened the journalist's life. Stating that journalism is an honest and legitimate profession that is a vital pillar of any democracy, the media practitioners say they reasonably expect that they would be allowed to practice their craft without being accosted and threatened outside of the court of law of all places, and called for a meeting with the commissioner to address the situation urgently. In other news, a joint operation between members of the Narcotics Rapid Response and Special Services Unit was conducted in Boar Mountain, Georgetown on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023. The police say during the operation, one AR-15 rifle, one Daco gun, 2 magazines, and 93 rounds of 5.6 ammunition were discovered and seized by the police. 4 persons were arrested on suspicion and taken into custody pending the outcome of an investigation into the discovery. Up to news time, no one has been charged, as the police say investigations are ongoing. OEA nurse Larisha Nanton, who pleaded guilty to a charge that on January 22, 2022, at the OEA clinic, she had in her possession a controlled drug with 59,039 grams of cocaine with the intent to supply to another, was today sentenced to 2 years and 10 months behind bars. Nanton reportedly broke down in tears as the sentence was handed down by Chief Magistrate Rashan Brown at the Serious Offences Court. Nanton pleaded not guilty to the second charge for having the drug in her possession for the purpose of trafficking. This charge was later withdrawn by the prosecution when the matter was heard at the Georgetown Magistrate Court on January 30th. Nanton was represented in the matter by lawyer Ronald Marks. Students of the Richland Park Seventh-day Adventist Primary School are encouraged to stay focused and keep away from bad influences. This encouragement comes from Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Savs during his visit to the school as part of a school tour undertaken today.
And listen to your mother and father and the people in the community. And listen to your teachers. And you go to church, you listen to your pastors. And stay away from bad company. Because you have a few bad men and some bad women who want to use you to do bad things even though you're a child. So you have to stay away from bad company and bad influence inside of the village. And keep your head on to develop yourself. Because as a child, you will grow into a young person. And then another, don't waste your childhood and don't waste your youth. Simple.
Dr. Gonsalves also spoke to the students about what it is like being Prime Minister.
Well, I will tell you, this morning, I got up as usual at around 4 o'clock. I get up very early in the morning. I'm doing that since I'm a young boy, because I used to have to go to the lands to milk the cows early in the morning to bring home milk for the home. And it's a good habit I have. Get up early. The first thing I do, I make myself, and I know I'm saying this inside of a Seventh-day Adventist church, and I shouldn't say it, but I have to talk truthfully what I do. I have a cup of black coffee. I know they tell you don't drink coffee, that it is not good for you. And then I start to work. I read newspapers on the internet from across the region and the world. And I have work to do. I will take home files and do work early in the morning.
Prime Minister Gonsalves engaged the students in an interactive session where they were allowed to ask him questions.
How old are you?
I am now 76. On August the 8th, I'm going to be 77.
Nice.
How old are you?
6.
You're 6. When are you going to be 7?
July the 30th.
July the
30th.
So you're like me, Leo, July the 30th. That's the sign under which you're born. They say that Leo boys or Leo people are very strong, that we have make up our mind and it's not easy to change our mind, though we can change our mind. But we are also very loving and generous. Is that the same thing with you?
How did you get your job?
How I got my job? I became leader of the Unity Labour Party in December 1998. And then in the elections in 2001, in March, I was elected. The ULP was elected. I became Prime Minister. Then I was re-elected. We were re-elected in 2005, 2010, 2015, and 2020.
Is your job hard?
She's asking if my job is hard. Well, you know, everything which you do has not so much hard or easy, but some is more complicated than others. But you have to be strong in your mind and your body and be dedicated to what you are doing. And you have to love what you're doing. But it's a lot of work. It's plenty work. But I want you to know I think about the children every day in relation to my work.
On the school tour, the Prime Minister also got the opportunity to engage some students involved in sports day activities.